welcome everyone to the Data on Kubernetes community. This is our meetup number 28. My name is Bart Farrell, and I have the pleasure of hosting this meetup today, titled The Kubernetes Contributor Experience in Fighting Imposter Syndrome, with two fantastic, stupendous human beings who I'm joined by. And I was actually just kind of reflecting a little bit about how exactly I met Rin. And I'm not sure if it was through KubeCon or it was through LinkedIn or if it was through Twitter, but I think it's through KubeCon. Or anyway, maybe a mixture of all the above. But anyway, and then through, this is, don't worry to everyone who's out there, this is being recorded. We just got a question. That's good. We're already getting questions. This is totally being recorded. This will be uploaded probably on Thursday at the very latest. But like I said, this is going to be action-packed. Which is why I want to shut up quickly. I just want to remind everyone that you can check out the Data on Kubernetes community on our website, DoK.community, on Slack. We're also on Twitter. We're also on LinkedIn. We have t-shirts. We're wearing them today, which is very exciting. But anyway, this is a topic that I think is going to provide a lot of value to a lot of folks out there who are maybe a little bit reticent or hesitant or nervous when they're getting involved in this kind of space. But I was talking to Savitha before we got started, and I can't stress this enough. This community, this world will welcome you with open arms. I've only been in it for a while, but my experience being very well received, very well treated and supported, despite my many limitations in many areas, has been incredible and exceptional. I was telling Savitha as well, is that I'm 35 years old and I've never found a space like this that's so welcoming and supportive. So that being said, I'd like to hear a little bit, brief introductions. We have Savitha, who's a senior platform engineer at MathWorks, living near Boston. And we have Rin, and they are working at Camunda as a technical community builder. So there are obviously some very interesting insights I'm sure Rin will be sharing with us today about their experience in that kind of work. That being said, I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to you folks. For all the people that are out there in the audience, we've got a slideshow presentation that we want to get through. If you have questions, just put them in the chat and we'll take them at the appropriate time, all right? Your questions will be fielded. Also as well too, we always like to continue the conversations in Slack after the meetup. So feel free to jump on there as well. Both these two fabulous people will definitely be able to answer your questions there. So feel free to get involved in the conversation there as well. That being said, I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe we can start with Rin. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in programming, how you reached the Kubernetes world, and how you are in the position you're at today?
Yeah. I got started contributing to Kubernetes in 2018. I was a table lead at the KubeCon Diversity Luncheon Act for KubeCon Seattle. And since then, that kind of ramped up to speaking at the Contributor Summit in 2019. And I also gave a talk at KubeCon EU Virtual 2020. So it all got started just by being at the Diversity Luncheon Hack and doing some peer mentoring, actually, which is how I met Savitha. It's peer mentoring, and I love it. It's great.
Very, very good. And Savitha?
So I also started contributing during 2018. I all started at KubeCon 2018. So I was the speed mentoring, peer mentoring, pod mentoring. It goes by different names every year, but it was one of the mentoring sessions, and that's what got me started. And from there, I have explored the ecosystem, the help of the community. I have been a release team shadow. I am actually leading a sub project now, and mentoring activities, and so on. So we will explore a bit of detail throughout the session, we are super excited. Rin and I are super excited to be here. All right.
Awesome.
So moving on.
So real quick, I'll tackle this one. Yeah, you're going to notice probably that these slides are kind of bare bones compared to others you might have seen. There's not a lot of pretty pictures. It's not an interesting font. That's really actually intentional. We'd really like to improve the presentation's accessibility and overall readability, and there will be a transcript of this presentation after it's aired. And if you like our minimalistic looking slides, you can let us know on Twitter.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Thank you, Bart. So starting with contributing to Kubernetes. So whenever any of my family member or non-tech friends who ask me, like, what do you do with open source? When I mention open source contributions, I explain it to them in this way. It's like volunteer experience, but for software. It gives me the same joy and satisfaction. So that's what contributing to Kubernetes is all about. I get all the satisfaction. I am so happy at the end of the day that something tiny that I did is going to help so many other people. It just doesn't help the personal professional career growth. It also helps on a personal basis. So take for me, I'm an example that I get anxious and I have done any presentation, but here I am pushing the limits, and all with the support of the community, and especially my co-presenter. I should thank them. So this is what the community does, and it's like the success of the Kubernetes, I would say, lies in the community. I let Rin add to it.
Absolutely. The success of Kubernetes is in the community. I mean, sure, contributing to open source is great. We all love Kubernetes, but in the end, we're here for the community and we're here for our friends that we made along the way. And I've met so many wonderful people like Savitha, like Bart, through Kubernetes. And I don't come from a technical background. I'm a non-traditional student. I was 30 when I got my degree. And I think that it's really important to recognize that you don't necessarily have to have a background in computer science. You can have a background in product management. You can have a background in communications, and you can still contribute. And you'll find people that are welcoming and friendly, and that you can get started regardless of where you come from. There's still a place for you in open source. No matter what your skill set, you can bring something to open source, and your contributions will be valued. And it's very, very important that we have everyone from all walks of life in these communities, because that's how they grow and that's how they improve.
I totally agree. So I come from a tech background, but the things that I want to do in Kubernetes is all non-tech. I am super interested in doing documentation, doing mentoring, which brings me so much joy at the end of the day. And that's what's important. And for me, community is what keeps me going. And when the pandemic started, I actually turned towards Kubernetes community. They actually got me going a little bit. I mean, I was struggling with so many stuff around that time, and I was a part of the release team. I think it was 1.18, and it's what helped me actually to pull me together and then keep me going. So I couldn't stress enough that Kubernetes community is one of the best. And Ren and I met at a mentoring session, and we meet every year at the mentoring session. So we are always at the mentoring table, and that is like one of our favorite thing to do. And this time we are more happy that we got to be here together again. This gave us an opportunity to get in touch with each other more, and this is what we love. And moving on to some of the best practices. So many folks have questions like, where do we get started, or how do we get started? So Kubernetes community has put together a great list of things like guidelines and how to build Kubernetes if you want to do code contributions, or like if you want to do documentation, wherever you want to get started. So they have this thorough website, thorough list of links and text and kubernetes.dev website, and that's a very good place to get started. And also have some style guide. And when I first made my PR, I got stuck into one of the Git issues, and the community actually helped me. So I just posted in one of the Slack channels like, hey, I'm stuck, and I just really screwed up one of my PR, so who can help? And someone actually jumped in and helped, and they are one of my mentors still. He's Dims, I think, is very well known in the Kubernetes community, and he is one of my mentors. He is the one who helped me fix a Git issue, and that's how I got to know more and more people. And as and when I'm going, I'm trying to stop and remember to pass it along and help in any way that's possible.
Absolutely. And there's also a great contributor guide that's been put together at kubernetes.dev. And that's a great place to go and to learn about what is expected of new contributors, how to get started. There's also a really detailed style guide to make sure that your PR that you open actually follows the style guide. So that means it'll get merged. That's really important too. And that if you're unfamiliar with Git, I would suggest sharpen your Git skills. Remember to squash and commit, and make sure that you're familiar with Git, because I know I've faced so many issues with Git, and it's been a real pain point for me is learning and understanding Git in relation to Kubernetes. So if you're unfamiliar with Git, I would highly recommend brushing up on your Git workflow and making sure that you are aware of how to do things in Git in the terminal when you're working with Kubernetes.
I totally agree. And if you're stuck anywhere, just don't hesitate to ask anyone in the Slack, and someone or the other will always stop by and help you. So it will also be a conversation starter. So moving on, Rin, do you want to start?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of opportunities to contribute to Kubernetes, and there's actually a contributor ladder that makes sure that contributors don't just stay at the bottom rung of said ladder. And it's not necessarily a ladder as it is an ecosystem. It's a journey where you start as a member, and then you can move up to a reviewer, an approver, a sub-project owner, technical leads, SIG chairs, mentors, project managers, and so on. There's a lot of places to go once you're a member. You can take this as far as you want. As far as imposter syndrome, that's a tough one because a lot of individuals think that they don't have the experience, they don't have anything meaningful to contribute, and they won't necessarily belong, but anything is valued, and any contribution is welcome, even if it's just changing a typo, fixing a dead link, or running a test, or just honestly issue triage, move something from one label to another, ask someone, hey, what's the status on this open issue? Saw that it hadn't been moved along in a while. These things all help, and it's still, you can do so much with this, and it doesn't have to be some big block of code. It can be spelling and grammar. It can be anything really. It can be translating Kubernetes and into different languages. Localization is huge. We always need help with localization. That's really important. And the Kubernetes community in general makes this really accessible with good first issues. Jake asks, how much experience would you recommend before starting out in a member role? I will get to that, Jake. That is a good one. I'll put a pin in that for the end of the conversation. Mentoring opportunities. There's so many mentoring opportunities available. There's office hours for many of the Kubernetes SIGs. There's Meet Our Contributors. There's one-to-one hours. There's shadow programs. There's the new contributor workshop. And of course, during KubeCon, there's pod mentoring. So there's a lot of opportunities to get help if you're stuck, talk to somebody if you need it, and get to ask other contributors questions. Meet Our Contributors is great. And there's a lot of places that you can go to get started on your contributor journey for sure.
So one of the things that Rin mentioned, that fixing a dead link, and that was my first PR ever. I fixed a dead link in the documentation website, and that's how I got started. When it got March, I got just enough confidence that I didn't stop working back. And so no contribution is small whatsoever. Anything is welcome, even commenting on an issue or an idea. You don't have to be a member to comment on an issue or a PR talking about your ideas. You can put them on Slack channel, reach the owners out if you want to talk to them in person. Like if you feel that Slack channel is a wide audience, you can always ping one-on-one. So it's the opportunities are unlimited. when I started, I was just going to some of the meetings for a really, really long time because I didn't know what to do. And I had the imposter syndrome and in my own way that I was thinking that I'm not good enough, or this is so much huge. I don't know where to start. I don't have enough knowledge and everything. But all it took was just one PR fixing a dead link. And that's all it takes. So don't hesitate. So the things that I learned is that not to hesitate when you need help or when you are feeling stuck, when you feel overwhelmed. Sometimes the Kubernetes as a code base could be overwhelming. It's just not the code, the ecosystem. When you look into the Slack channels, there'll be like so many channels and it could be a lot, but just start somewhere small and go from there, where whatever that you like, you'll find your way, one way or the other. If you don't like something, you can always move on to the next. And if you have ideas, you can just start your own things. Agenda, you can have agenda, you can propose them to a SIG, you can start tracking them, or there are like so many ways. All you have to do is just tell your thoughts out loud. So many people have questions. What is a SIG? SIGs are nothing like verticals. Think them like verticals, and they specialize in one part. Like for an example, there is a SIG for contributor experience. There is a SIG for usability, and they specialize in those areas. SIG for networking, a SIG for security, and one takes care of the release. So they are like verticals, but there are also some things called working groups. They work across the SIGs so that like they act as a liaison between two different SIGs basically. So a SIG is nothing but a area that is specializing in one of the verticals. And we would suggest, like, if you're interested and you want to know, and just go through the list of all the special interest groups, and if something is interesting or appealing to you, go to their meetings. If it doesn't happen in your time zone, there is always meetings which you can catch up on, or you can just stop by their Slack channel and say, hi, I'm new and I'm looking for this. I'm looking to contribute. Where do I get started? How do I get started? Someone or the other will always be there to respond or chat with you about it. Great.
Absolutely. Yeah. The first step is definitely to look at that list of SIGs and definitely go to the meetings. And they also usually have documents that you can drop questions in asynchronously. So even if you can't be there, if you put in a question, someone will answer it, and then you can watch the recording in your time zone and you'll see the answer to your question. Hopefully it got answered. So that's really neat too. They do try to encourage asynchronous communication, which is awesome. There's a lot of SIGs. So that's one of the big ways to get started is to look at the list. And if one catches your eye, definitely drop by their Slack and introduce yourself, say hello, don't be shy. There's a lot of people that are just waiting to meet you.
I totally agree. So we have listed out some of the SIGs that we participate in. These are not the only available ones, but these are the ones that we are currently participating. Just to highlight what kind of things we do, and starting with contributor experience SIG.
Yeah, exactly. The contributor experience SIG is full of wonderful people working together to improve the contributor journey in Kubernetes. So if you are also like me, you'd like to make the contributor experience more accessible and more welcoming for new contributors, definitely check out the contributor experience SIG. And there's also the release CI signal SIG, which is a SIG release sub project. And I'm looking at their meetings, and I'd love to someday be a release shadow. Savitha, on the other hand, is awesome and is already a release lead shadow for Kubernetes release 1.21, which I'm pretty sure is the current one, and it is her fourth release cycle. That is wow. That is awesome. Talk about that a little bit, Savitha. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, sure. So when I started out small, so I got to know about the release team in one of the mentoring sessions in 2018, and when I came back, I looked around the meetings for about 6 months, and every release cycle has a shadow application apply to be so. Release team is made up of various sub teams. I'm just taking a step back and explaining how it has like 4 or 5 sub teams, and they have shadow opportunities for every sub team and the release team, and that is open for anyone. You don't even have to have any kind of experience. You can have multiple levels of experience. You can be an expert. You are just starting out. You know, anything at all you want to launch. It's not limited to any. It's not limited any kind of like, oh, you should have these set of knowledge beforehand to apply. So it's open to anyone and everyone. So I applied, and I didn't get through the 2 cycles, and that was 1.14 and 1.15. And then I took a pause. I paused it, and I focused my interest in understanding the documentation, Kubernetes website, how to contribute and everything. And I applied again 1.18, and that's when I got selected as a shadow for the documentation. And I led the 1.19 documentation sub-team. Which was fun. It's one of the longest release ever, because that's when the shutdown and the pandemic started. So the release went on for like 6 months. I learned a lot. More than learning technical things, I learned how to be empathetic to others, how to be a good team lead. A team is made up of not just a leader. It's just all about the team, and I learned all those things, and I made many friends along the way, and some memorable memories that I get to share and cherish. So those are the highlights of my 1.19 cycle. And for 1.20 and 1.21, I am continuing my position as a lead shadow, it's been amazing. I get to learn everything, something new every day. One of the things that Rin mentioned is CI signal, which I am very, very interested in. So I get to learn a little bit about it. Someday I want to focus and I want to contribute to that project someday when I have time. But that's in my radar too. So it's a fun team, and it's a fun place, and a good opportunity to know about the entire ecosystem. Like, you get a hang of what various other portions of Kubernetes Kubernetes is like doing, or how they actually work together. And also to learn about the release process, like how a feature starts out and it moves to the alpha phase, and then it moves to beta phase, and then it stays there for a couple of cycles. And when it meets the graduation criteria, it becomes graduated, and the cycle repeats all over again. So it's all good to learn and good to be a part of. I enjoy doing that. And the next project, I'm involved multiple other places. And one of the highlight of last year is that SIG Security. So SIG Security is one of the newly formed SIGs. It was formed last year. And they had various projects, and I volunteered to lead one of them, and that is like a documentation project, which is actually aiming at improving the security related documentation on the Kubernetes website. The goal or the vision is to make it a one-stop shop for all Kubernetes security related things. So moving on, code contributions. Rin, do you want to talk about it? Or?
Yeah, I can tackle this one. Yeah, definitely. So if you know already what you're interested in terms of contributing to Kubernetes, you can check the GitHub repository, like we said, and see if there's a SIG. And then hopefully there will be some good first issues for you to claim and start working on. So if you claim an issue, it's best to check in, make sure that you're making steady progress as time permits. But if you find yourself unable to continue to work on it, you can just leave a comment and unassign yourself from the issue. And I'd like to also note that there's no shame in pausing your open source contributions if you are burnt out, or if you no longer wish to contribute to Kubernetes. Just let somebody know. Nobody is like required to be here. We're in a pandemic. So definitely don't burn out just trying to contribute to open source. It's really, we're all really welcoming here, and we understand that there's a lot going on right now. So don't feel pressured to keep contributing. Real life always comes first. And it's super important to realize that you're still going to be welcome if you take a break and come back. That's what happened to me. I took a break, I came back, and everybody has been super nice, which is really fun. So there's no pressure, there's no time limits. You can do what you can, and it's good if you claim an issue to make some steady progress on it, but nobody's expecting you to turn around in a day either. So set a realistic goal and make progress as you can, and it'll be more than enough. And we're grateful for your help. And as always, definitely check out Good First Issues, or if there's something that you know that you can absolutely fix and it's open, feel free to claim it. It's all yours.
Yeah, I totally agree that no one's asking. It's not like so if you feel overcommitted, you can always share the load. It's not like one person needs to work on one thing. You can always work with multiple people on the same issue or PR. And the one thing that I would say is that you can easily end up overcommitting to many things, because this is a land of opportunity. So you would find so many things. And I've been there. Like I have said, oh, I'll do this. And I overcommitted. And at the end of the day, I feel like, oh my God, I have so many things on top of my day job. And and I know I had to take a step back and you let the folks know, hey, this is what I'm focusing on right now. This is what I cannot do. And the community is super appreciative, and they are very supportive as well. They are like, when you want to come back, they welcome you with open arms, like Ren said, and you make friends for life. That's one of the highlight. And also, you can say like, yeah, this is overwhelming, or like, I think I cannot do this right now, or I need help, or I have done only half the work and I want to just move on and do something else. And you can give your work to someone else and they can just carry forward. It's totally cool. So coming to non-code contributions, right? So how many folks like me, I am from tech background, but I'm not interested in code contributions that much, because I do it as part of my day job, but I want to do something else. So this is where I go to. Issue triage is where Rin and I started working, right? There was a country-based issue triage subgroup or group, and we started out there working together. And when it's all about triaging issues, like you go and look at the issues and see if they are stale or if they need attention. You just give someone the nudge. People are busy. Folks are always busy, and they would have noticed that they want to reply to something, but they have forgotten, or something had come up on their way. So you always just reach up to them and nudge them in a little gentle way that, hey, are you still working on it? Do you want to assign yourself, or what is the progress? And blah, blah, blah. You would just ask about it. And if they say that, oh, this cannot happen right now, or this is no longer an issue, so you just close it. So these are the tiny little things. And this really helps maintain a very healthy queue for the Kubernetes issues and PRs, and you don't keep the outdated old problems in place. And you can just pave way for the new issues, new features to come through. And I feel like this is one of the most important work that you can do, and you don't have to know about code.
Yeah, I agree. Issue triage is so important. Issue triage is beyond important. It's the most important thing you can do, because it helps to reduce the workload for everyone. If things can get closed from backlog, if things can get moved forward, if they can be reassigned or reprioritized, it's such an important thing, and it really matters, and it really makes a difference. So issue triage, I would highly recommend. Another thing people can do is documentation. Write the docs. It's just one of those things where we've all read bad documentation, and we know what that looks like. And Kubernetes is an example of pretty solid documentation, and everyone can help us keep it that way. There's always something that needs changing. There's always something that needs updating. There's typos, there's dead links, there's new things to add, there's things to take away. You can help us keep it that way by helping write the docs. There's SIG docs. Feel free to get involved. Come say hi. There's also other community contributions like the Kubernetes Contributor Spotlight. Those are fun. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, localization, helping us get the Kubernetes documentation available in more languages. I'm not sure how many languages Kubernetes is available in right now, but I'm pretty sure that it's at least more than 5. So that's a fun one. If you speak a different language, definitely, other than English, if you speak a language that is not English, feel free to check if there's a localization effort for the Kubernetes docs in your language that you speak fluently that is not English, whatever that may be. I know that there's a current task to translate the Kubernetes documentation, I believe, into Mandarin. I am not sure. I'm pretty sure that somebody has also, I think there were rumblings around Portuguese at one point, but not positive. But I know Mandarin is a definite, which has really been interesting to watch take shape. And yeah, that's a big one. Localization is big. And there's also the upstream marketing team and contributor communications team, which is a Kubernetes contributor experience sub-project. If you are interested in things like social media, blogging, etc., you can join the upstream marketing team and help with their efforts. They would love to have you. There's also program management, and one of our amazing PMs at Kubernetes is Lori Apple. And if you don't know Lori Apple, you should, because Lori is a wonderful human being. And the project managers help the teams in Kubernetes manage that project board, and they drive that project forward. And it's a really wonderful skill that we desperately need, and every open source project needs, but Kubernetes more so. And another thing you can do is mentor. You can volunteer to be a mentor or sign up to be a mentee at KubeCon. There's the person you would get in touch with that is usually Wendy West, and Wendy is amazing. And you will see the mentoring call go out usually on the KubeCon Twitter or the CNCF Twitter, and you check those and it'll say sign up to be a mentor at this link, and it'll be a Google form. You just fill it out and you can sign up to be a mentor. But if you're interested in being a mentee, you can fill out a similar form and ask your questions and say, here's what I'd like to know, here's what I'm interested in, and they will assign you a slot. So it's a really painless process, and that's another huge thing that you can do is mentor, give back some of your time. There's usually 2 slots. It's about 3 hours of your day, and it's really worthwhile, and I highly recommend it. I do it every year, and it's my favorite thing about KubeCon. Absolute favorite thing.
Yeah, I couldn't stress enough that I started out as a mentee, so I'm here. It's really important. It doesn't have to be even just the sessions. You don't have to wait for the sessions. You can always reach out to someone in Slack, or there are like subscribe to KDev mailing list. There have been so many mentorship opportunities that get posted there. One of the things that I took advantage of is a working group called Component Standard. They were converting some of the kubelet config into flags, and they were providing mentorship. They were providing guidance. They explained everything. Matt Taufin and Lee Capley, they both are awesome, and they were there, and they're still they still have office hours. So many other SIGs have office hours. You can take advantage of office hours and ask your questions there. And to add to Rin's point on the localization, it's really huge. If you speak a language, if you know how to write and speak a language, and you think it's not there in the localization, and you think you can devote some time, and you can even get a localization started for the language. You need a couple of other people to share the load and review the PRs like that. But anyone can get a localization started if there is enough interest and if there is enough perseverance, because the project in itself, it can be a little bit huge, and commitment is needed there, because you're starting out on a language and you want to attract more people on the language, and you want to get that going. But it's fun, and there is it's a sub project right now of SIG Docs, and feel free to stop by and check it out. Brad Topol is the one who's leading it, I think, and with Ivy. So there are a lot of non-code things that you can do, and like these are some of the highlights, and there will be more as well. And sometimes there is event management, right? When there is actually in person or the KubeCon comes around, there is this events team which is responsible for doing some of the event-oriented stuff. So there is something or the other, and so many more. So if you're interested, just stop by the Slack or come to one of the mentoring sessions, or tweet at people, and someone or the other will share the experience, and that could spark a conversation. It could even be a new thing that we start supporting or doing together. Right. And so we have listed out some of the additional resources. Rin, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to kubernetes.dev and you find Savitha and I in the crowd on the landing page, send me a message on Twitter. I will send you a sticker. It's like, where's Waldo for kubernetes.dev? And you can find K8's contributors on Twitter and, of course, kubernetes.io. Check that out. If you want to join the Slack and you're not already there, go to slack.k8s.io and sign up. And then, of course, there's the KDev Google group. Always can check that out as well. There's so many additional resources, but these are the main ones I would highly recommend. So give these a look. And like I said, if you find Savitha and I in the crowd on the landing page, DM me. You'll get some Kubernetes stickers. Yay.
Yeah,
what will you not do for
all...
stickers? I'll take a sticker.
Basically. All right. I'll send you a sticker.
I'll take a sticker. Sorry, Savitha, what were you going to say?
Definitely. I was going to say that I am a sticker nerd. So I just have, I love stickers. So wherever stickers are there, I'm there. So
many.
There are many to collect. Anyway, that was a fantastic presentation. It was a lot. There's a lot in there. All right. There's a lot of different things that we can touch on. So I've got some questions. We had some other questions come up. But one thing that I just want to touch on is, for folks out there it's kind of interesting. We had kind of both sides. 2021 is obviously going to be a challenging year. We're all in different phases with wondering about vaccines and can we go outside and can we do this? Can we do that? So I think on the one hand, the community aspect that we see here through contributing to Kubernetes is extremely positive, knowing that you have people out there who are going to be asking how you're doing. On the other hand, though, we can see the risk of, burnout or being stretched too thin. I'm just saying, in terms of time commitment, we saw lots of different ways that folks can get involved. But what would we say as a reasonable amount of time commitment, how many hours a week would we be thinking about if someone wants to get in on let's say on a SIG or just checking out the landscape? Just to be fair, to ourselves, how many hours a week should we be thinking about? Obviously, I'm sure you can give as much as you want, but what would normally be expected of somebody? Either one.
The thing that would be, I would say at the very bare minimum, would be to attend the weekly meeting, and that's an hour usually. Okay. That's the base commitment. 1 hour.
And Rin, would you recommend? And would you? And if we think about all the other things we've done with 1 hour of our lives, I think that's more than manageable. But Rin, with that in mind, and I think also as well too, and because you guys also mentioned that you're lurking currently in a different SIG, is that I imagine for some folks as a I guess we could say like a bit of a softer landing, attend a few meetings, kind of see how things are working, and then you can kind of decide based on that where you might be useful or what's the best way to help out, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Another thing is that you did mention the weekly meeting, and you also touched on these things being asynchronous. Both of you are based in the US, but in terms of people in different countries, different time zones that you've interacted with, where do people, I mean, I imagine we're talking about people all over the world, right?
I have an answer for this, but I also want to hear what Savitha thinks. So Savitha, let's see if our answers match. I bet.
I'll give the go first. So, for example, release team. The current release team is geographically diverse. So we are tackling the issue with having meetings that spread across different time zones. For example, we have two different meetings. One for US and EU folks, and the other one that covers APAC and EU. So we have alternate meetings. So most of the SIGs, even SIG contributes doing, and I also saw a mail today that they have been moving to async communication. So we post all the updates and stuff in a Slack channel or a HackMD page, whichever is convenient for that particular SIG or particular team. Some of the sub teams might have their own channel on their own. So that's the way that we communicate. We are not hoping that everyone, either someone who is in Apex or Australia or somewhere in Japan, stays up really late to attend a meeting that's happening in the US time. So if they can provide the updates, it's good. Or if not, we always communicate in Slack messages, Slack threads, and that's how we keep the async communication going on. I want to say it has gotten a lot better. So the meetings these days the meetings have taken consideration of who the participants are, where they are from, how to make it more effective so that they don't have to spend if they are somewhere around the world, they shouldn't be staying up late just to attend the meeting. So it's been there have been efforts, and I want to say we are successful to an extent, getting this async communication going.
Perfect.
Ren, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. I was going to say, there's an APAC meeting for a lot of things right now, and I'm absolutely having a geek out moment because I just saw Divya Mohan in the chat, and Divya is one of our SIG Leaves friends.
And also an amazing person who I'm hoping to get on the meetup in the next month.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, Divya's great. But these are APAC, and Contrabacks actually, I think, just announced literally before this meetup started that they're archiving one of the Contrabacks channels and moving to async. And literally, it's just going to all take place in Slack and Google Docs. There's not going to be any meetings as far as I'm aware. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as I am aware, Contrabacks is moving to entirely asynchronous communication, which I think is a very important thing to do, especially with the contributor experience, because that sort of thing is so important. And there's so many people that are involved to make that experience better, that having that communication go asynchronous is allowing more people to contribute and to say, this part of the process might be challenging for me, and having that opportunity to say things that are on their mind that they might not necessarily feel comfortable saying on a meeting in Zoom. They can type it easier than they can say it. So it gives people an opportunity to say what's on their mind and to have that sort of opportunity for sharing and for presenting things that may be challenging for them in a way that's also welcoming, so that they can get those addressed without having to put themselves on the spot in a Zoom chat.
Definitely got it. Makes sense. Other thing to keep in mind, or just curious about, I think I read online. I'm just curious. Quick quiz question. How many contributors are there nowadays for Kubernetes? When I check, Savitha, yeah, a lot. Okay, that's a good start.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, if anybody wants to Google it right now, you can feel free. But I was checking earlier, and my numbers could be wrong, but I saw 35,000.
That's pretty. Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to double check that just in case. So somebody out there can please fact check me if they want. No, but yeah, like I said, if we go to kubernetes.dev, it says 35,000 plus contributors. So that's a huge community. I mean, we're talking about obviously tons of folks from lots of different countries, lots of different languages, backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. What I want to check on this though is that which SIGs are the most populous or populated or have the highest amount of people in there, and which maybe might need a little bit more love if somebody out there is thinking about, hey, I want to join a SIG that's a little bit smaller for whatever reason. Do we have any numbers on that, or maybe we should just check? What's like number one SIG?
That's a good question.
Well, it's okay. Like I said, these are things we can follow up in Slack and whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, but I want to find out now.
Because because
really
it's like
interesting. I don't know the answer.
Savitha,
do you know? I don't know.
No idea. I have no idea. But yes, this is an interesting question. So that we it's think about it's an amazing way to channel the talent, like which needs a bit more TLC, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's fine. We can look into that. There's plenty of time in the following days. Rin, you mentioned earlier about the importance of sharpening one's Git skills. I know you've mentioned. Yeah. Okay. So good. Would there be any practical tips that you might suggest to be like, definitely do this, definitely don't do that? Things that folks should keep in mind.
Absolutely. Git and I don't get along on the best of days. Like I said, I do not come from a technical background, so I'm fighting with Git probably on a daily basis. And I've learned so much, but it's still challenging, and you will still run into Git issues. One of the things that you need to be aware of in Kubernetes is that you should squash and commit your commits. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to end up in a very bad time pretty quickly, especially if you don't come from a technical background and you're working in something like VS Code. And even if you're working not in VS Code and you have to do it in your terminal, you should know how to pick commits and squash and commit and how to do that from your command line. Because if you don't, and you're having to squash commits and you're having to have that process and you don't know how to do it, it's just going to be really stressful for you. So I would say definitely learn squash and commit if you do one thing. If you do one thing, learn squash and commit, because you will save yourself a lot of time and a lot of stress. And it's by far the most used thing. And I don't advocate necessarily rewriting Git history. It is definitely a choice, and some people don't agree with it. Some people say that defeats the purpose of Git, rewriting history. But Kubernetes does squash and commit, at least in certain areas of the project. That's what they prefer to have done, is that you squash and commit if you're making multiple commits. But again, it is a distinctive choice to have made, and it's kind of divisive in a lot of circles. But for now, I would say practice squash and commit. Make sure you understand it. Make sure you can pick a list of commits and make sure that you're choosing the right one, and you know how to squash, and you know how to choose, and you know how to rewrite your Git history if you have to.
Very good. Savitha, anything you would add to that? Yeah.
Definitely. Always create a branch. Don't work off of the main branch. Yes, hard thing. I learned the hard way.
Create a branch, please.
That is like I learned it the hard way. So it's a good practice. It's one of the best practice to always create a branch and keep your fork in sync with the upstream, so that so initially when I start out, I didn't know how to do that. I'll just delete and recreate, which is not the right way to do it. But eventually I learned how to keep my fork in sync with the upstream and always work off of the branch. I still run into Git issues one time or the other. If you're stuck, that's okay. Just ask for help. There'll be someone. But Rin pointed out all the important things that's needed. Squash and commit. Because if there are 35,000 contributors, and if everyone has 4 or 5 commits for one PR, it's a lot of commits. So
yeah, quick math.
Yeah, it's a lot.
No, it definitely is. And with that in mind, with talking about, the size of the community or things like that, what are things that you would like to see? Obviously, both of you are working very actively. What imagine if you had to create a SIG, if there's one that hasn't been created yet, what might that be? Or do we feel like we're quite well covered with these 35,000 amazing human beings across the world, and that something will more organically appear? Or is there anything where you said, I definitely would like to see a little bit more of this, or perhaps see, like I said, a little bit more love going in one direction or another?
I'm hoping to bring something to contracts and SIGDocs about communication methods and understanding that not everybody communicates in the same way. How I communicate and how you communicate might be different, and how people interact with one another is different based on their culture, based on their history, based on their background, based on a whole bunch of factors. And that to create a more welcoming community, we should understand that people are going to have a tough time speaking up. Some people might not be extroverted. They might not really want to get out there and be loud and be open. And so I want to bring something together that says, here's how we can nurture the quieter voices and make sure that people are all getting a chance to be heard, even if they're not loud and outgoing on Twitter or on social media, that they have an opportunity to get their voices heard in a way that is still impactful. That's what I want to do.
More empathy-based user experience, we can say, or contributor
Empathy-based
experience.
user experience. Yes.
Yeah, I got that. I feel that.
Just like, yes, that is my whole thing for 2021. Empathy-based user experience. You heard it here first.
No, but I think also, once again, 35,000 people from how many different countries and how many, and regardless, you can have two people from the same small town in any part of the world, and they might have completely different ways of thinking for tons of different reasons. So I think really keeping that in mind and knowing that you're going to be interacting with people who see things differently. And that's the good part about this, because that makes you a better person, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
Savitha, what do you?
Yeah, Savitha, what do you think?
I think Rin's idea is great. I am drawing a blank right now. I'm sorry, but if I think anything, I'm gonna drop in the chat or in DoK Slack channel.
Good. No, it's all good.
Yeah, right now I'm just drawing a blank because I'm trying to think what are all the things that already exist and what can be new, or it's just it's beyond me right now to comprehend. So I'm gonna
Plenty of time for later. Just curious as well too, both of you having been involved in mentorship, menteeship, what are the sorts of things or guidance that, I mean, generally speaking, and of course respecting confidentiality, what are the kind of questions or let's say subjects that people are trying to tackle inside those spaces related to mentorship?
Actually, I think that in the mentoring, there's 3 different tracks you can choose, right? There's the community, there's the technical, and I am absolutely blanking on the third one, but there's 3 of them.
The third one is the career.
Ah, yes, I knew it was one of them.
Yeah. So, and don't wait for it. So today, Rin is my mentor, right? I have, like I mentioned, I am anxious about presenting, and Rin has mentored me. They are amazing. You wouldn't believe that we had 3 meetings, like 30 minutes, and half of them were just getting me to be comfortable. They have been wonderful. I'm so grateful that I have so many good mentors in my life. So it's not like don't wait for the opportunity or wait for the time, but that okay, during only mentoring program that I would get some kind of benefit out of it. It's not true. It's always there. Like I love from everyone that I work with in one way or the other. Divya, for example, was a part of 1.18 release team. She's been a part of the release cycle 3 cycles, and I have learned a lot. She's a force of nature. She's leading comps right now for 1.21, and there's been other people like Anna, and they have been like strong personalities, and you can find mentors in day-to-day life, and you can always learn from them, and don't forget to pass it on. So whenever I get the opportunity, I'll definitely pass it on. But that's my example, right? I just don't wait for the thing to happen. Take advantage of whatever is right now.
Very good. Rin, anything you'd like to add?
I would not be here without the mentorship that I've experienced in this community and the friendships, and I'm very grateful to everyone that has given their time and their expertise to help me. And I am very blessed to know such wonderful human beings, and I would be here for hours if I had to name everyone. So considering we got 4 minutes, I'm going to skip that part.
That's good.
I totally agree.
No, but I think
I would be here for so long.
Yeah, but I think it's a great way to finish up. Is that basically, the whole thing is, it's all about giving. I mean, I've learned that from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
From talking to folks in KubeCon. It is all about giving, and everybody has something that they can give. Right. And
sure.
also, as a very nice way to finish this up, both of you have seen our mysterious lurker in the panel, who is Angel. But while we have been talking, Angel is someone who has very, very special abilities. And one of them, among many, happens to be art. So every time we have a meetup, we have Angel is creating a beautiful piece of art. And so he creates an artistic summary of all the things that we've been talking about. Well, all the things that you've been talking about. I've just been a mere observer and listener. And so he does this. And also as well, in talking about language differences, English is not Angel's first nor his second language, it's his third. But he, while listening, and he's been doing this with us since the beginning, and is occasionally asking me questions like, what's a SIG? What's this? What's that? But anyway, so he's able to compile all these things and create a very nice visual summary to represent all the things we've been talking about and all the things we will continue to talk about. I'm extremely energized by this conversation. And I have super clear that my homework is to go home and find a way to get more involved. And I'm very, very, feel very supported by all the things you've been mentioning, reaffirming my comment that I had with Savitha before we started about how welcoming this community is. And they really mean it. It's not just a slogan or a catchphrase or a hashtag. Like, it's a real deal thing. So I'm so lucky to have had both of you on here, and I don't imagine this is going to be the last time. So we got to start planning the next one. Maybe even get more folks on here from different SIGs, from different mentorship programs, whatever. And thank you both so very much for your time. And thank you for both wearing the t-shirts.
Thank you very much for everything. This was a real pleasure. Thank you, Bart, for having us. And thank you, everyone in the community, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to talk to us on Slack or to ping us on Twitter. We're always happy to talk, or find us in the Kubernetes Slack. Thank you again for your time, and we hope to be back.
You definitely will. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.